you conduct this interview, and then you print this story. What happens next?
A lot of questions.
Yeah. No, what I mean is you print the initial story. What happens next that now you hear from Ohtani's camp that,
well,
no, he was robbed. So
let me just clarify one thing.
Please.
We did that initial interview, and we were very close to publishing a story based on what we were told in that initial interview with Mizuhara and what I had collected through multiple sources and document.
Mm-hmm.
We did not publish that first account alone. We ended up getting a phone call. I mean, we were really close to publishing, and we ended up getting a phone call, frankly, a series of phone calls very quickly saying, hold on. I'm paraphrasing. Hold on.
Right.
And something has happened.
How fast after your initial interview was conducted and you hung up from the interpreter and the crisis management PR person hung up? Okay.
It was some time. So I concluded the interview with Mizuhara roughly around midnight on the East Coast.
Yep.
And to put that into context, I mean, for folks who are just sort of, catching up right now, this was happening in the hours before the season opener for the Dodgers in South Korea. So for me, it was midnight. But in South Korea, where Mizuhara and much of Ohtani's support staff, including the Dodgers and Ohtani himself, it was in the morning leading up to that Dodgers game, which would be played later in the afternoon of in South Korea.
Yeah, that's the reason why I ask about the time frame between you conducting your interview initial and then getting a statement. No, Ohtani was robbed. Is they played a baseball game and everybody saw Mizuhara in the dugout, chit-chatting with Ohtani, and they're mixing it up like nothing had ever happened. And it's another head scratcher of this whole thing. So that's why I asked.
You can imagine what it was like to be me at 6 a.m. watching the two of them in the dugout.
Yeah. So what was it like to be you when you're watching that?
I've been a reporter a long time, and people react in very different ways, and nothing surprises me anymore. Let's just say that. So I was watching it. I was noting it. I was taking pictures on my phone of the two of them interacting off of my screen, like a reporter does. And I was writing about it. I was actively writing the story when that game was taking place. It's a couple hours after that game is taking place as we are, putting the final touches on our story and remain in communication with Ohtani's spokesperson, that we get this statement from Ohtani's attorneys saying that there had been massive theft. Now, that is very different than the interview I had done. And so we make phone calls. You better believe we start making phone calls. And of course, one of my very first phone calls, and forgive me, it might have been my first phone call, was to Mizuhara. And he didn't immediately pick up, but he eventually does pick up the phone and proceeds to answer a series of questions that I ask that are very yes or no kind of questions at this point, because he wasn't nearly as forthcoming as he had been the night before. And so this was me starting with the question, first I read him the statement and I said, what is your response? And I didn't get a whole lot. And I said, Ippei, did you lie to me in that interview? And he says, yes. And that's when I get into this yes, no. And you can read the details of some of those yes, no questions in our story that we published on Friday. And you can see, I'm asking, is someone paying you to say this? Or, have you made some kind of agreement to say this? And he says no. But I also say, was there, confusion, or did you purposely misinterpret? I don't know if that's the right word, but did you purposefully tell Ohtani something differently than what his representatives had said in English, and vice versa? Did you say something differently than what Ohtani said in Japanese to his English representation, like his agent or, lawyers or something like that? And he said, no, he had never done that. He had never interpreted anything incorrectly.
Wow. So, because the thing I don't understand, and that I'd love to get answered, and I'm wondering if you've gotten any answers on this front, is how it's not like you're just zelling $100. You know what I'm saying? To a friend. You're not Venmoing and putting in the notes that everyone can see. This sort of money that even if it is Ohtani sending it, you can't just wire $500,000 to somebody without a bank noticing or calling up or having some sort of an alarm bell set off. And then certainly if somebody's just wiring the money from a computer, I mean, there's got to be a code at the very least. You know what I mean? There could even be, over the 7th or 8th time, a banking representative that needs to be on the phone. Like, what's the nuts and bolts of the wiring process? What are the answers that you've gotten on that front?
As you can imagine, the investigative unit at ESPN, and I think a lot of other people are asking those questions to financial experts, but there's really only a very small group of people who will know the answer to that. And that is the people who deal with Ohtani's bank accounts and the people in Ohtani's circle. I will say, and this is just a general statement, this is not specific to Ohtani's banking. I will say, wealthy people operate in a different universe, and he's one of the wealthiest people in sports. They operate in a different universe. So my recommendation would be to folks, who don't have $500,000 to wire 8 or 9 times, over the course of the year. Don't take your experiences and apply them here. I think we're dealing in rarefied air.
Well, I mean, that means there are handlers, right? I mean, there's got to.
We're trying to figure it out. And
in that,
obviously, we're reporting we're reporting out, and when we have stuff that we can. We have journalistic standards. We are not going to just report rumors and speculation and innuendo. I mean, that's not what we do at the ESPN investigative unit. That's not what I do. And so when we have solid information that meets our journalistic standards, we're going to publish it.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.